When something shocking happens to me, I always want to run and tell someone. That trait of mine has its positive and negative qualities. I'm an external processor, so running to tell someone often helps me to process what has just happened and make a plan for action. I'm an extrovert, so I get energy from sharing with others. However, sharing quickly could mean I'm sharing before it's time, or I overreact, not giving time to process. Mary may not have had either of these traits, but I can relate to that feeling of needing to tell someone. We don't read that Mary was told to go to Elizabeth. We just know that she went. There is urgency and joy in her journey. I bet she needed to tell someone. Mary is greeted by Elizabeth and is immediately given a sign. The child in Elizabeth's womb leaps with joy. Elizabeth exclaims that both Mary and the child in her womb are blessed. Judith Jones, professor of religion at Wartburg College, writes in her commentary that Mary is blessed not only for her status as the mother of the Lord, but also for her trust in God's promise. Our English translations of this text obscure the fact that Elizabeth uses more than one word for blessed. When she pronounces Mary blessed among women and proclaims that the fruit of Mary's womb is blessed, she uses the term, and I apologize if I mess up the Greek, eulogemene, which emphasizes that both present and future generations will praise and speak well of her and her child. But when she says, "Blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her by the Lord," she uses the word Makaria, the same term Jesus uses to bless people in the Beatitudes. She might well translate Elizabeth's words as, "Happy is she who believed." Mary is blessed because she will be honored for bearing this child. But she also has been blessed with divine joy, with beatitude, because she has believed that God is able to do what God promises to do. She believed it. I can hardly relate to that. I would have been scared out of my mind, and maybe she was, but that's not what God needs us to know about Mary. God needs us to know that Mary believed and that she was filled with joy. Some of you may be familiar with Giancarlo Menotti's operetta Amal and the Night Visitors. I was raised on Amal. My grandpa always played King Balthazar, and I was a little shepherd child on more than one occurrence. Year after year, whether on stage or in the audience, I was drawn into the story of the Christ child, this child who holds the seas and the winds on his palm and has the moon and stars at his feet. There's clearly something special about this child that would warrant very important people to go visit him and bring him gifts. And at the end, when the crippled boy, Amal, miraculously walks, he too is drawn to the journey to meet the Christ child and decides to gift him his crutch. The story ends with joy, though bittersweet, as Amal's mother waves goodbye to him and his new friends as they go to meet Jesus. Throughout the story, Amal's mother struggles. She doesn't believe that the kings are at the door. She tries to steal some of the king's gold. She's hesitant to let Amal go on the journey with the kings. But Amal believes, and the kings believe, though they haven't seen. Their belief fuels them on their journey. Mary's Magnificat, her song of praise in verses 46 to 55 of the first chapter of Luke's gospel, shows Mary's belief and great joy and tells us that the Lord is coming for all God's people. Monica Coleman writes in Preaching God's Transforming Justice that Mary should be seen here as a prophet. God moves through her as an active agent of justice. Nancy Rockwell writes in her commentary that Luke shows us in Mary's conversation and her actions courage, boldness, grit, ringing convictions about justice. Mary, wanted by God, according to the angel, for her bold, independent, adventuresome spirit, decides to bear a holy child for a bold agenda. To bring the mighty down from their thrones, to scatter the proud in the imagination of their hearts, to fill the hungry with good things, and send the rich away empty. This is Mary, well-spoken, wise, and gritty. In the beginning of this sermon, I shared some traits of mine and how I might relate to Mary. Another trait that I have is conflict avoidance. Not one that I'm proud of, but one that is true just the same. And if I were Mary, staying with Elizabeth for 3 months, it would be because I was embarrassed and afraid to be confronted by questions and harassment. We don't know why Mary stayed for 3 months. We know that 3 months is the span of time between when Mary was approached by the angel and when John the Baptist was born. We can surmise that where Mary was with Elizabeth and Zechariah was safe and loving. Who knows what she was to encounter once leaving that space? But Mary, this wise mother of God, has already shown tenacity and strength in her words. Now she journeys into the unknown of waiting expectantly for this newborn and the new adventure of motherhood. This wise, well-spoken, and gritty woman. Yesterday, I stumbled across a video on Facebook that was shared by a Manchester student. If I had seen it a week ago, if it had been posted a week ago, I would have had us watch it this morning. In the video, Reverend Broderick Greer shares that we often see Mary clad in blue, docile, domesticated, quiet, flat. But when you engage the biblical text, you see that Mary is four-dimensional, a person with emotion, a person with fears, a person with hope. Greer posits that perhaps the revolutionary, prophetic side of Jesus was inherited by his mother. In our text today, the mother of Jesus addresses wealth inequality, feeding the hungry, filling the poor with good things. Greer likes to call the Magnificat Mary's rebel anthem, because in it we see a God that is setting the world right. A few weeks ago, I attended the Illinois-Wisconsin District Conference, which was held under the theme, "Do not be afraid, I bring you good news," from Luke 2:10, just a little bit after our story today. During lunch, I asked a friend and seasoned pastor, Christy Waltersdorf, who had preached the opening sermon the night before, how do you preach the same text over and over, particularly the Christmas story, tell year after year and keep it fresh? Well, I'm sad to say I've completely forgotten her answer, but I've still been contemplating the question. The answer for me today, when considering this text, is that even though this text is old and repetitively used, it never gets old. And we should always be repeating the actions to which it calls us. I hope that these words today have given you some fresh look or different look at this well-known text, or at least have reminded you of the work to which God is calling us. I hope that Mary's rebel anthem has given you some insight into this woman who gave birth to Jesus. Mary, the Theotokos, the God-bearer. Meister Eckhard, 13th century German mystic, writes, "We are all meant to be mothers of God, for God is always waiting to be born." Where is God being born around you? How are you journeying through this Advent season? With expectant joy? With wholehearted belief? With fear or anger? With doubt? With a rebel anthem? All of these are possibilities, are legitimate and very human. As you journey through Advent, I pray that you find new ways to see the story of the birth of Christ, the revelations of Christ's friends and relatives, and the call that has been placed upon your heart to see God being born around you. I pray that you continue to be a part of God's transforming justice on this earth and to be a blessing to those who journey with you.